Click to cancel. Have you ever found yourself trying to get rid of a subscription or a membership and found it impossible to do it? Well, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is now stepping in to help. So joining me to talk about that is FTC Chairman Lina Khan. Chair Khan, nice to see you. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's talk about this new rule being announced today. What does it really do? What will it really mean for consumers?
The problem that it's taking on is the problem of subscription tricks and traps. We've seen that as more businesses across the economy have become dependent on subscription-based business models, firms will make it extremely easy to sign up for a subscription, but then absurdly difficult to cancel. And so you might be able to sign up online, but then to cancel, you have to make a phone call, but nobody picks up, or you're on hold forever. Or when you do reach a rep, they endlessly transfer you, and then the call gets dropped, and you have to do it all over again. Sometimes you can try to do it online, but there's, deceptively small font or all sorts of nudges. I think we've all experienced it, just this sense that firms are really trying to thwart you from being able to cancel. And it wastes people's time. And it also costs people money, people spending tens, if not hundreds of dollars a month on subscriptions that they no longer want. And so the rule is about making companies have it be as easy to cancel a subscription as it is to sign up for one, so that no American is paying for a service that they no longer want.
I want you to explain something because I have read through the rule and there are some things that even confuse me a little bit because of sort of double negatives that are happening. So this is all based on a 1973 law called the negative option rule. So can you explain, because it's all throughout this rule, what is the negative option?
It's a great question. So basically a negative option is a subscription or a service that automatically renews or automatically assumes that you want the service unless you affirmatively go and say no. So it basically flips how transactions usually work, which is that unless you go and seek it out, you're not going to be charged, you're not going to get something. Negative options is when you have these services or products that are the inverse, where unless you proactively tell somebody to stop charging you, that you no longer want the service, they're going to keep getting charged.
Okay, so I'm going to go through, there's 4 main points of this rule. I'm going to go through each of them so people, because when people read it, they're going to say, what does that mean? And I'm going to have you explain each one real quick. It says the rule prohibits sellers from misrepresenting any material fact made while marketing goods or service with a negative option feature. What does that mean?
Basically means that companies have to be honest. They can't lie to you about what the service of subscription is. They can't mislead you by saying, well, it's only $10.99 a month when it's actually $19.99 a month. They have to be honest about the terms that people really care about.
Okay. Failing to clearly and conspicuously disclose material terms prior to obtaining a consumer's billing information in connection with the negative option feature.
There's certain terms that really matter to consumers, right? If you have a free trial, you're going to want to know, when does that free trial end, right? You're going to want to know, what is the frequency at which you're going to be charged? Is there a deadline to cancel? And so businesses have to make all of that material information available before they even get your billing information.
The third is failing to obtain a customer's express informed consent to the negative option feature before charging the consumer. What does that mean?
I know that one's a bit of a mouthful. So it basically means that for these negative options, which basically, again, means that unless you affirmatively cancel, you're going to be in an auto renewal program, they have to affirmatively ask you, do you want to be in this auto renewal? Do you want to be, do you want us to assume that you want this subscription rather than just businesses assuming it without people actually opting in or affirmatively saying that's what they want?
Oh, that's helpful. So what you're saying is that if I go to start a subscription, I have to click a box that says, yes, I want you to renew me every time. Is that what that means?
In essence, basically, yeah, they can't just assume that you want to be in that.
Got it. And then the last point is failing to provide a simple mechanism to cancel the negative option feature and immediately halt charges.
This is basically, they have to make it as easy to cancel as it is to sign up. So if they're saying 1-click sign up, 2-click sign up, it has to be 1-click cancel or 2-click cancel. You can't say, all right, people can sign up online, but they have to go in person to cancel or send certified mail or call somebody. There has to be real symmetry.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. That was super, super helpful. I covered this when you first announced this proposed rule back in April of 2023, right? So for all of those who are watching right now, rules like this take time. They don't happen overnight. Obviously, this is a good example of one of those things, and there's a long process that has to happen, which includes a lot of public comment. So my question, Chair Khan, is the original rule had a couple of other features in it that I reported on that do not appear in this final rule. Two things in particular. One, there was supposed to be some sort of annual reminder to consumers before they were charged again. And the other was consumers would have to opt in if they wanted certain upsells. So my question is, why did those things not appear in the final rule?
A good question. And you're right that these rulemakings take a while. And part of why that is because we have to put out a proposal and then collect public comment. On this one, we got 16,000 comments from people across the country that included consumers just telling some of their horror stories about how they hadn't been able to cancel. And it also included businesses and trade associations explaining how they deal with these types of features. Ultimately, we can only include in the rule what we think we have support for in our comment record and what we determine we have clear legal authority for. So any changes that we made were basically due to one of those factors.
Got it. I want to talk about the legal authority because I think that's another thing that a lot of folks are getting frustrated with. And I personally, as a journalist, feel like I have seen this happen more and more under the Biden administration, and I would love to get your take on it. I have seen a lot of rules being proposed and then final rules being issued, and then immediately or shortly after, legal challenges, legal challenges, legal challenges. And the legal challenges have in a lot of those cases worked. So my question is, and by worked, I mean worked to halt or stop the rule from taking effect. So my question is, in your estimation, is that because the Biden administration, perhaps even the FTC, is sort of overstepping in what it's considered their legal authority? Or is it that states and plaintiffs are getting more savvy with the court system?
It's a really important question, and it's no secret that courts, including the Supreme Court, are actually revisiting some of their decisions from a century ago or decades ago and really revising what type of authorities they believe, the Supreme Court believe, that agencies have and that Congress is able to give the agencies. So this is a moment where the court is really changing and updating, what agencies can do, changing major interpretations of that. And so that's really what's contributed to plaintiffs being able to successfully file some of these challenges. There's also a discussion happening among lawmakers, among policymakers, even within the courts, about whether it's appropriate for a single judge in one district to basically have a veto nationally. And if one district court says, I believe this rule goes too far, can they really issue a decision that has nationwide effect? And so that's something that the Justice Department has says they believe is impermissible, and it's something that's working its way through the courts.
And now this rule, how confident are you that, have you been getting pushback already? I would imagine you are, from these companies that offer these subscriptions. So how confident are you going to be that this rule is going to be able to withstand what's coming?
We're on really solid legal footing here. We have clear authority. We basically have established that subscription tricks and traps are unfair or deceptive practices, and Congress gave us clear rulemaking authority to issue rules for unfair or deceptive practices that are prevalent. So we believe we more than check all of those boxes. We've gone through all of the processes that you have to go through. And we took all of the comments very seriously, including those from businesses and trade associations. At the end of the day, this is really a common sense rule. No American should be paying for a service that they no longer want. And if businesses are relying on business models that are premised on tricking or trapping people into subscriptions, that's not something that we should be standing for, and we believe that it's illegal.
Speaking of deceptive practices, one of the other rules that the FTC issued just over the summer was supposed to take effect in the fall, and I know a lot of people were looking forward to it, was the ban on non-competes for employment agreements. And that rule would have, in most cases, eliminated existing non-competes and prohibited any kind of new non-competes when you are entering a new job. Of course, that was stopped by the courts as well and is being blocked nationwide at this point. So my question is, what happened there? I mean, this went through that long rulemaking process. I know it got stopped. I mean, is there a chance that it's going to survive?
This is one of the most important rules that we've issued because it really goes at the end of the day to people's fundamental economic liberty, right? I mean, non-competes, as you know, have proliferated across the economy. And so these are not just being applied to high-end executives, but they're being applied to janitors, security guards, fast food workers, healthcare workers, including those in rural parts of the country. And so when workers are not able to easily switch jobs because their employer is trapping them, that means that people make less money, and it means that they're not able to go freely start their own businesses. And so competition is down, wages are down, innovation and entrepreneurship is down. We believe we have extremely clear legal authority to do this. In fact, the last time there was a legal challenge to the FTC's competition rulemaking authority, we got a clear decision from the DC Circuit that we have the ability to do this. With these legal challenges, we've been sued in 3 separate courts. One judge in Texas came out and said that she believes we do not have the authority to issue this rule, and she has issued a nationwide injunction, basically setting aside the rule across the country. A judge in Pennsylvania came to the exact opposite conclusion and said that the FTC does have this authority. And then we had a judge in the Middle District of Florida that had an opinion that was somewhere in the middle. He believed that we do have the statutory authority, but that there's all this new major questions doctrine from the Supreme Court that may complicate the analysis.
Right.
So 3 different courts, they've each come out a different way. We are now appealing some of these decisions, and so we're going to see how that keeps working out. But this is such an important issue. We can use our enforcement tools and bring lawsuits against non-competes, and so we're going to make sure that Americans really are getting their economic freedom.
Chairman Khan, it was so nice to talk with you. Thank you so much for your time. And I will have all the information about this click to cancel new rule available on lisaremillard.com. Chair Khan, thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.